Hello and welcome to this week's edition of ELCAT News Update. I'm Jen Carlos. After submitting detailed statements of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority to enter into the process of planning and building a new high school, the district learned this week that it would have to reapply early next year in order to keep the possibility of a project viable in the future. There had been some hope after a visit by MSBA staff early last summer that East Longmeadow would be invited into the state's process for renovation or construction of a new high school. The MSBA provides roughly 55% reimbursement for the cost of approved projects. The school committee on Monday discussed options moving forward. Member Greg Thompson noted that the process seems inevitably to favor districts that allow buildings to fall into disrepair while penalizing districts that maintain buildings for students.
It does seem like we're being penalized and that they're funding projects of buildings that people have let go. And the reality of it is, and we all know this, we can't go without the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Right.
So you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and we are at their total mercy until they accept us into the process.
Right.
And they have not again.
Members expressed concern that the uncertainty over a future high school project will impact short-term decisions about which capital improvements should be funded in the upcoming year's budget.
We are meeting with the town manager, town finance director on Thursday, and we're also meeting with the superintendent of DPW and the new facilities manager tomorrow to look at the capital plan that was approved, the 5-year plan that was approved here, get some thoughts, and then bring back probably in that January 8th meeting more thoughts as to how you may want to prioritize as a district rep.
Yeah. Well, and the question for that night I think will also be, does the MSBA decision change that? I mean, we should.
And that's going to be the biggest question to wrestle with.
On Tuesday, the Planning Board addressed a number of issues relative to the opening of a Five Guys restaurant in the Center Village shops. The popular hamburger chain will be located adjacent to a recently downsized Mattress Firm store on the west end of the shopping center.
So what we've filed is a special permit, really a housekeeping special permit, to update the original permit, amend the original permit so that it reflects what's on the ground. So there were a couple minor areas where a space or two were not constructed in one place or the other, but in general, the numbers that we were dealing with in the original special permit exist. They just are slightly different. Yeah, so that's really the gist of what we're here for. We're not asking for any changes to the existing parking under this application. We're really just asking for the permit to reflect what's on the ground. And it's been obviously operating successfully there for a decade or so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So all we're doing is basically approving an updated plan.
Yes, sir.
That reflects the actual conditions.
So we have provided that. The plan to our left is kind of a hybrid of what was provided before with some updated information. We've updated the parking counts based on our field investigation.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Lou?
No. I guess I have a question, really not for you, but for Rocco. So what do you see the future of Center Square, call it Plaza, being? I thought it was the original, well, I hoped it was the original intent that it would be developed somewhat like Longmeadow Shops. And not to be offensive to anybody, but I don't think a Five Guys kind of fits in what I'm thinking of to be similar types of businesses.
That's the next one.
That's not on the table right now.
Sorry, okay, sorry. But maybe you can answer it anyway.
Well, I guess what I can say is when it was built, that was the spirit of what
and for a long time it was.
Our vision was, okay? Things have changed, and how have things changed? The internet has changed a lot. Brick and mortar retail is really evolving, and what we're noticing is there's a lot more demand, and you look at any shopping center, the ones that are still out there, the malls are a thing of the past, they're vacant, where things are going to services, they're going to restaurants, they're going to nail salons, they're going to hair salons, they're going to even offices and accountants, and that's what's happening to a lot of these centers. We've talked to a lot of tenants over the years. A lot of them want to migrate together, and I think as a result, we've lost some to the Longmeadow shops. But as we look at, retailing going in the future, and I think it's becoming more and more service-oriented, and I think that's what we're trying to stay current. We've had some vacancies in here. Our objective is to get the center vibrant and full.
Maybe the gentleman can answer the question, but is Five Guys considered a high traffic volume generator? Which would be 700 vehicle trips.
Yeah, we definitely.
You hope so.
Yeah.
It's not a town that we go into that there's a high interest in what we do. We produce, I think, a good product with good results, and we drive heavy traffic.
Do you anticipate more than 700 vehicle trips per day?
I really don't have that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't answer the number of vehicle trips. I don't have any demographic studies on that.
Do you have 350 customers a day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Then you're
I
on
can
700.
respond to my comments with the folks that we've been dealing with.
Just Rocco, if you just identify yourself for the tape, because afterwards it's hard
Rocco
to...
Falcone, managing partner for East Long Meadow Center Village. When we look at traffic, we look at parking, the folks have been out to the site and they're comfortable. Because one of the things that they were concerned about is there enough parking to handle the restaurant. And when we talked about seats and we talked about parking, they surveyed it at lunch and dinner time to say we're comfortable that there's enough parking to be adequate for our operation.
Also at Tuesday's meeting, the board continued discussion of a new zoning bylaw proposed to regulate adult stores in town. A zoning map overlaid with the setbacks as proposed in the bylaw indicated that the only available parcels for a conforming adult retail store were in the industrial garden district. While there was consensus about altering the restrictions on retail business in the industrial park to allow single-use or specialty retail, there was concern about proximity to the Longmeadow Youth Athletic Fields that abut the district boundary.
Yeah, I really don't think we can distinguish, between East Long Meadow's kids and Long Meadow kids. I think that's almost being hypocritical. So
It is being hypocritical.
If it means we wait another 2 weeks to finalize this and someone makes a call to Long Meadow and say, geez, here's our issue, what do you guys think?
Sounds great to us.
If we
Well,
leave-
not gonna happen.
if we leave-
But I mean,
if we-
come on.
If we leave that in, it still leaves plenty of parcels where they can locate, so leave it in,
Yeah.
okay?
The board is expected to finalize and vote on the bylaw proposal at its next meeting on January 2nd. Here with some fire safety tips for the holidays is firefighter Chris Beecher.
This time of year, some of the things we like to let people know about is with holidays coming around the corner, this time of year it's very common for kitchen fires. Thanksgiving is the #1 time in the country to have a kitchen fire due to cooking. Christmas is the second highest day of the year that we do have cooking fires. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of distractions in the kitchen. One of the things is as your guard comes down and you start getting distracted while you're cooking, that's when we see a lot of the problems happen. People either leave the kitchen or they get distracted from some of the things they're doing. So we do ask, just as far as a safety suggestion, if people are cooking, have somebody responsible stay in the kitchen. Make sure that things are set for the right temperatures, make sure they're cooking for the right amount of time. Keep flammables away from the stovetop. Anything that can catch on fire should be at least a foot away. And one thing too is recommend is a 3-foot kid safety zone around the stove. Kids, they're running around the house at that time of year, pretty excited. They touch the stove, they can get a burn. Pot handles and things like that, you want to make sure that those are facing in so that little hands can't grab them and to top some of the cooking material on top of them. So. Escape routes, that's something big. It was this year's topic for Fire Prevention Week. We try and teach everybody to have a home escape plan. It's crucial in making sure that you're getting out of your house in a timely manner, making sure that everybody escapes safely if there's ever a fire in your home. It's no different than a fire drill that you have at schools or if you have at work. Working smoke detectors are the first thing you need to have a successful home escape plan. Smoke detectors go off, that tells you it's time to get out. You should know at least 2 ways out of every room in your house. Make a map. Draw a map of your home showing 2 ways out of every room. Make sure everyone in the family knows how to do it. That's the most important thing. It's not any good if only a couple people know. Everyone should know the 2 ways out of their rooms. They should know where to go once they're out. We suggest a meeting place towards the front of the house. Make sure everybody's going there. That's going to tell the grown-ups that everyone's out safely. First thing we're going to ask when we get on scene is everybody out safely? Best answer we can hear is yes. And the best way to know that is if everyone's meeting at the same spot. And most importantly, call 911. Make sure you're calling that number when you're outside the house. Don't waste those precious minutes making that phone call inside. Get outside. If you brought your cell phone, great. If you didn't, don't go back in for it. Knock on a neighbor's door, ask if you could use their phone. And once you're out, stay out. There's nothing that we can't go back in for as firefighters wearing our gear. Nothing that you're wearing outside the house is safe for you to go back into smoke and heat. Generators. Ever since the October snowstorm in 2011, a lot of people have gone out, they've gotten themselves generators. Best thing I can tell you is if you have a generator to use it away from the house. Some people, they put them in their garage, they think that's safe. It's not. Generators should be used away from the home. Carbon monoxide builds up very quickly with a generator in use. If you have one tied into your electrical, some people have it tied into the electrical system from their house. If you had that done, make sure it was done by a licensed electrician. That's a lot of power going into your house, and during a power outage, chances are emergency services are busy doing a whole lot of things, and if you create a problem for yourself by doing something like that, then there's potential for a delayed response or a diminished response in that case. So if you're using them, use them outside, away from the house, and if you have it tied into your electrical service, please make sure it was done by a licensed electrician. Extension cords. If you're going to use an extension cord on anything, make sure that it is rated for the appliance that you are using. If it's a appliance that draws a lot of electricity, make sure it's a heavy-duty electrical cord. If you're using electrical cords outside for anything, make sure they're rated for outdoor use. If you're using a space heater, it's suggested that you don't even use an extension cord. It's best to just use it, plug it directly into the wall. Space heaters are also a cause of concern for us this time of year. We say 3 feet of clearance around a space heater to make sure that nothing flammable is near it, anything that can get too hot. Space heaters are safe to use if used properly. However, we see a lot of times where they're plugged into multiple extension cords. Sometimes they're right up against bedding. And a lot of times people will use them in an environment that's not safe for them to use. Just electrical space heaters are legal in Massachusetts. Kerosene, propane ones are not rated for, are not legal to use in Massachusetts. So even though you can go across the state line and buy one, it doesn't mean that you can use it legally in town or in the state of Massachusetts. So just be aware of that. Both of those propane and kerosene heaters do emit carbon monoxide. Has the potential for a dangerous buildup of carbon dioxide in your home. Snow and ice away from fire hydrants, that's a personal one for us because the hydrant is the one thing that we are going to use to extinguish a house fire. That's what we tie into, that's what we use for our water source. If we can't get to it because they're blocked by snow, we may have to find a different hydrant, and that hydrant is, could be several hundred feet down the road, and if that one's not working, it's just delayed time for us to get water on the fire. Even if you have a small amount of snow, go out and clear about 3 feet, approximately 3 feet around the fire hydrant. Even if it's just a couple of inches of snow, if you don't do it this snowstorm, then the next snowstorm comes and that's another couple of inches, and before you know it, you have a blocked fire hydrant. So take that little bit of time, clear around the hydrant. It could be the one that we use to put out the fire at your house. And we do our best to get around town to get the ones off the main arteries, but we can't possibly get to everyone in town. So please, if you have one in your neighborhood, do the right thing. Just make sure that hydrant's clear.
With Christmas upon us, the New Year is just a week away. 2 women from St. Paul Lutheran Church have launched First Night East Longmeadow, an evening of free food, fun, and entertainment for all ages. Pastor Ann Stricker and member Kelly Phillips came by the studio to talk about the event.
It was shortly after 4th of July, and we were just we were sitting around kind of brainstorming different ways to also promote community events, because that's what, since Pastor Ann came to St. Paul's, it's really what we've been looking for is community outreach opportunities. So as we were just brainstorming, one or the other of us came up with the idea of New Year's Eve, and the other one said, oh, I think you said first night, and it just kind of evolved from there. So it was really just she and I brainstorming and trying to come up with something that would really work for the community, something important and valuable and safe and fun and family friendly, and we just kind of put it together, and now it became a thing.
It's, philosophically, it's hard for people to understand that churches are a part of the community. Mm-hmm. It's easy when you think of banks and stores and schools and that kind of stuff, but churches are kind of like country clubs. Most people don't think about going to them unless they're actually members. And so to be a part of the community and to sort of help the community, you've got to go out into the community and do things. Mm-hmm. So when we did 4th of July and it worked so well and everybody was really excited about it, and all we did was basically provide a space for folks to come, we thought, well, this is something that we can do. We can provide space for things to happen. What kinds of things do we want to have happen? Well, we have these AA groups. Mm-hmm. Let's create a space for them to have a fun night where they don't have to worry about everybody around them is drinking. What do they do with their kids? Well, let's provide a space for their kids. So that's kind of how it evolved. That, and the more ways that the churches can get involved in what the community is doing, rather than expect community members to become members of your church, the more we can, help with the community at large.
So the event is going to run from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m., our philosophy being that people can go home after 11 o'clock if they choose to stay that long, which they don't have to. At 11 p.m. they can go home, be off the roads before, a lot of the New Year's craziness sets in. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of our premise. So parents can hypothetically drop their children off to us at St. Paul. We're the children's venue at 7 p.m. and then go off to St. Mark's where the grown-ups are going to be, having great food and great entertainment, all for free. And then the high school students are going to the Methodist Church where they'll have a DJ and great food as well. So we have activities and food and entertainment set up for all 3 venues for all 3 different age groups, and all provided at no cost. We were able to get some really good sponsors and to help us to get funds together so that we can provide this to the community for free. So it's just such a home run in our opinion.
And again, as a part of trying to expand in the years to come, if this is something that people are really involved in and excited about, then perhaps there'd even be, a way that the, school buses could be used to transport people between the venues next year. And, another reason for stopping at 11 o'clock might be that if we have like a winter parade that starts at Heritage and goes down to the Circle, everybody can then gather at the Circle for a ball drop. So it's not, this is the first leg of the, multi-leg stool that we're trying to create for this event. And we've had a lot of positive, really good encouragement from members of the community and from Town Hall, and people are just really excited about something new happening here in town. So we hope it grows.
On Wednesday, December 27th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., the library is hosting a Lego building event. Children ages 3 to 12 can stop in to build with Legos and put their imaginations to work. This drop-in program is located in the Children's Department Activity Room. On Thursday, December 28th at 10:30 a.m., the library is hosting a preschool yoga class with Lisa Katz. Children ages 2 to 5 along with a caregiver will enjoy music and movement of this course. Registration is required as space is limited. And on Friday, December 29th, there will be an open art studio at the library. Participants can celebrate the New Year in style by making a special craft. No registration needed. Drop in any time between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. All ages are welcome.
With your ELCAT Sports Update, I'm Anthony Santinello. The East Longmeadow Spartans boys basketball team was in action Wednesday night as they hosted the Amherst Hurricanes. What looked like a game the Spartans were in control of for most of the first half quickly shifted into the Hurricanes' favor at the start of the third quarter. East Longmeadow led by 4 at the break, but a quick 7-0 run by Amherst halted any momentum the Spartans had going into the half. The second half is where Hurricanes senior Kyle Murray took over as he poured in 37 points in the game. East Longmeadow was led by Torrin Bosworth's 22 points and 16 each from Colin Lindsay and Jordan Wiggins. 4 quarters wasn't enough to decide this one, and in overtime, Murray continued his impressive play, and Amherst ended the Spartans' unbeaten season by the score of 78-76. The Lady Spartans were also in action as they hosted Belchertown here on Thursday night. East Longmeadow looked fantastic early on, led by the play of Meg Sharon. However, just before the half, Delaney Whitehead looked to suffer an injury and would remain out for the rest of the game, which meant Nicole Coolidge would have to step up, and she did just that. Coolidge led all scorers with 19 points, including the game winner at the buzzer to give East Longmeadow their third win of the season, 47-45. Happy holidays from all of us at ELCAT. I'm Anthony Santinello.
That's it for this week's edition of ELCAT News. I'm Jen Carlos. From all of us here at ELCAT, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.